Please introduce yourself and tell us why you're here.
Yes, my name is Tony Fenwick and I'm a teacher in Hertfordshire and I live in Luton. I'm also CEO of an organisation called Schools Out and LGBT History Month, and I'm here in Manchester as the second day of a Schools Out conference to talk about my experiences, my life, and help you with your project.
Can you tell me about your experiences in primary school?
Well, do you know, the first day at primary school I went into the playground and the boys were playing football. The boys played in one part of the playground and the girls played in the other. There was segregation. And they were playing football and they were calling each other puffs. Oh, you don't do that, you puff. You don't do that, you puff. And I'd never heard this word before, so I said, what's a puff? And this boy told me, and he told me in very lurid detail. And I learned very quickly what a puff was and that it wasn't a good thing to be. And it's interesting because when you're talking, how many times on television or radio do you hear somebody say, oh, they shouldn't talk about such things in primary school, you know, they shouldn't talk about homosexuality in primary school. The children are innocent, it's not something you should talk about with them. And I think, well, that was my first day at primary school. I was taught all about homosexuality from a peer who told me that how awful it was and made me feel very uncomfortable. Now, would you like your children to be taught about sexual diversity and sexual orientation from the kids in the primary school, in the playground, who are bringing all the prejudices that they got from home and all the stereotypes and all the awful ideas that have been put into their heads? Or would you rather be taught it by a professional who's trained and knows what they're talking about? Secondary school is too late to talk about these issues. I know that from personal experience, and I think it's very important to raise the issue of sexual orientation in schools as early as possible.
Do you think the prejudices you heard in primary school carried on in secondary school?
Yes, of course they do. If it's not dealt with in primary school, I think secondary school is too late. And then I also remember that in Schools Out, when we launched LGBT History Month, we immediately got the support of the criminal justice system and the Crown Prosecution Service, because they wanted us to get into the arena of probation. And what they wanted to know was, why are we dealing with 20-year-old, 30-year-old homophobic and transphobic people? Why isn't this being dealt with at school? Why is school churning out all these prejudiced adults? And so they have always been very sympathetic to what we're doing in LGBT History Month and what we're trying to achieve. Because, you know, homophobes at school don't go out and turn into non-homophobes. They continue as homophobes when they go into the world of work and when they go into everyday life, and they become homophobic or transphobic parents too. School is where it has to be dealt with first and foremost.
Do you feel the experience of prejudice impacted you personally?
Oh yes, I didn't want to be that. And another thing was, when I first moved to Newcastle, the bus stop was next to a public convenience, and it was a cottage. It was 24/7 a cottage. And so I also learned very early in my life, not only from my peers that it was an awful thing to be, but I learned that we had dirty sex in toilets. And I didn't want to be part of that either. So think of all the pressures then. We've got the children telling me how awful it is. We've got the dirty sex in the toilets things. We turn on the TV and I've got role models like Dick Emery and Larry Grace and all these limp-wristed, effeminate people who are the butt of everybody's jokes. It's not a very nice place to grow up gay, is it? So yes, there were an awful lot of pressures on me to hide my sexuality, deny my sexuality, and adopt or internalise it and adopt many of the prejudices that would be used against me if I was open.
Thanks very much for your time.